Your live interactive Weather Authority coverage will begin shortly. Your live Weather Authority coverage starts right now.
Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday Eve. We made it to Thursday, but unfortunately got some severe weather to talk about today. I've got meteorologist Emily Santom here. So great to have you, Emily. We had you on the morning show for the first time. How are you feeling? Are you tired?
I feel like no. I understand why you have a lot of energy at the end of the morning shift, Christian. 'Cause I feel like I have it too now.
Yeah, it's like very accomplishing when you get done with the 4.5 hours of the morning, and
Yeah,
then
I
at
agree.
the end, it's like yes, but yeah. And we've had a busy morning. We've been running all over the place. Of course, we've got severe storms on the way. We've got team coverage all day long. Me and you are here this morning. We've got Ryan Munn in at noon, and then Ryan and Charlie will be out this evening tracking those storms. Hopefully, seeing some good visuals here. We'll hopefully having a good storm chase going with Ryan later on today, and hopefully we can avoid a lot of damage today. That's our number one. For those just tuning in, of course, we've got a big severe weather threat on the way today. Potentially could be one of the bigger ones of the summer here. So I'm going to break down our severe weather threat here over the next few minutes, and then I'm going to have Emily talk about the weekend forecast. I'm going to let her take the fun part here because the weekend just looks so great. We're going to see a big drop in humidity. It's going to be feeling amazing. So I'll let Emily take over there in just a second. So Emily, I'm going to take over here for a minute here and talk about the severe weather, and I'll bring you back in just a second, okay? All right. So let's talk about our storm system today. Getting going out there this morning, we're beginning to see some storms moving into western Maine now. Overall, though, fairly quiet. And this first round is not going to be anything of a big deal. We're just going to see some rain, some rumbles of thunder. So yeah, hey, Christian, Emily, good morning. Pulling double duty today. That's right, Travis. Yeah, we've got the full team on high alert today for these storms. Linda says she's scared. No need to be scared, Linda. It's not fun, of course, to deal with this, but as long as you've got a good plan of what to do should a bad storm affect your area, and as long as you keep an eye on the sky, keep an eye on the forecast, you will stay safe today. Same with you, Jalissa. Just keep an eye on the sky. Keep an eye on those warnings. Make sure your phone volume is on today. So if we do get a tornado or severe thunderstorm warning, it's going to go to your phone and you get that alert and you know to take shelter. Well, Auburn looked like it did the other day again. I am really hoping that Auburn avoids the worst of the heavy rain, Cameron. As of right now, it's not a guarantee that they won't end up like that, but I'd say the odds are better today because these storms are a little bit faster moving, but they still will have plenty of heavy rain with them, and flooding certainly another possibility today. All right, so taking a look at our satellite and radar, round one moving in now, not a big deal. We are honestly fine for severe weather until we get to the early afternoon, say 3 p.m. or so. That is likely when we are going to see our severe weather threat really ramping up. Jalissa, you're exactly right. Stay home. A good afternoon to stay home, or at least be in a place that's a sturdy building. Even if you do want to get out, go out to eat or something like that, make sure you're in a restaurant that is built well, I would suggest, for this afternoon. So for today, here's what we are looking at. Storms are going to develop this afternoon. Looks like the worst weather about 2 to around 8 p.m. or so this evening. So that's when our highest threat will be. So if I could recommend any time to not be out and about doing things, 2 to 7 p.m. or so, that is probably when things will be the worst out there. Damaging winds and flooding are the main threats. This is not going to be a tornado outbreak. Most of us, hopefully none of us, will see a tornado today. It's just so hard to get tornadoes here in Maine. But the threat is so much higher than for a normal day. So that's why we still have that threat of a tornado or two this afternoon. Heat as well as a factor. That's more today and tomorrow, and really tomorrow. Today, I honestly think the heat advisory was pretty much completely unnecessary because it's just not that hot out there. It's warm, it's muggy, sure, but it's not all that excessive. Tomorrow, though, that's going to be a different story. So Cameron asking, do you think that area will have tornadoes, Lewiston, Auburn? What is the chances of that? I'm getting into that in just a second. And yes, the risk for Lewiston, Auburn is actually increased for tornadoes. So we're going to talk about that coming up here in just a couple seconds. So let's talk about our threat or our planner, I should say, for the rest of the day today. Temperatures reaching the 80s this afternoon. We're going to see that chance for strong storms, as I mentioned, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. So if you take anything away from this, probably best to have some indoor plans or a way to be in shelter between 2 and 7 p.m. So if you're going to be outside, just make sure you've got a way to run inside really quickly between those hours of 2 to 7 today. So we're talking about that threat area, and our highest threats, wind and flooding, are, of course, the highest threat here. We're going to see the damaging wind threat pretty high today. And of course, with the heavy rain we're expecting and everything so saturated, I mean, we really haven't gotten a break in the rain since the beginning of June. Flooding could come very easily today. It really won't take that much heavy rain to lead to some flooding out there. Hoping to avoid scenes like we saw earlier this week in Lewiston, Auburn, but again, that cannot be completely ruled out. Damaging wind threat's pretty high as well. That tornado threat, though, also quite elevated for this afternoon. All right, you guys, here is where the highest risk is. If you were watching yesterday, that yellow area in Maine was a lot smaller. So it has been expanded. More of us at risk for a strong to severe storm. So where will most of the severe weather going to be? Central and southern Maine, the mid-coast, Camden, Rockland, through Brunswick, Bath, through Freeport, down towards Portland, Yarmouth, Falmouth, Yarmouth, all included in this as well, down through York County, coastal York County, towards inland York County, Sanford, Leamington, Limerick, up towards the Oxford Hills, the Lakes region, Bridgeton, Naples, Casco, Sebago, all those towns in that highest risk area. Augusta as well included in that. Now, north of there, a lower risk, but still not a zero risk of severe weather. Tornadoes are rare in Maine, but know what? They do happen. Very true, Travis. Back in 2018, I don't know if some of you guys remember this, but in 2018, the Sebago Lake region had, I think, 6 tornadoes in a single day. I'm not thinking that's exactly what's going to happen today, but it does go to show tornadoes certainly not impossible here in Maine. All right, and so here's a look at our, of course, thunderstorm threat, but let's talk about that tornado threat, which is fairly unusually elevated for us here in Maine, and it has been expanded. I know Cameron asked about this a minute ago. Do you think that area will have tornadoes? Lewiston, Auburn. Well, yesterday I would have said probably not. Today, not out of the question. The risk does look like it has been expanded further towards the north. So Lewiston, Auburn, down through all of Cumberland County. This does include the greater Portland area. It does include all of York County as well, the Lakes region. And if I know one thing about Maine's severe weather, it's that the Lakes region and York County tend to be hit towards the hardest with these storms. So Lakes region and York County, there's something about the terrain there that tends to favor storms that spin. So if we do see a tornado today, I would really be looking out there. However, anywhere in this pinkish shade of color here does have that risk of seeing a tornado. And even in the somewhat tannish shade, there's also that risk of a tornado there. It's just a lower risk. So from the Lewiston area southward and westward, Freiburg, all of the Lakes region, all of York County included in that tornado risk. Jalissa, great point here. If you need groceries, go get it now. Yeah, we are in the clear, you guys, until 1, 2 p.m. or so. So if you've got errands to run, the rest of the fine, even a couple hours into the early afternoon, I would just say probably not a bad idea to have a way to be sheltered by this afternoon. Tornado in Saco, of course, you can't guarantee any one location will get a tornado, but the risk is there in Saco. Same risk as in Portland or Lewiston, an elevated risk that we do see at least a tornado warning. Yeah, you remember when that happened, Travis? I was talking about the Sebago Lake tornado outbreak in 2018. Sanford, Marjorie is asking about Sanford. I would say probably one of the higher risks in the state, Marjorie. The ingredients are all there in Sanford at the very least. Damaging winds, very heavy rain, looking pretty likely there this afternoon. And tornado can't be ruled out either, although not a guarantee, of course. Again, most of us will not see a tornado, and hopefully none of us see a tornado. It's just very hard to get a tornado in Maine, but we all know it is certainly possible. So yes, here's a look at our tornado threat. Of course, that severe threat exists for all of central and southern Maine. All right, you guys, so we don't really talk about tornadoes too much here in Maine, but the 1 or 2 times a year where there is the risk of a tornado, we do like to bring this up. So in case of a tornado warning, here's what to do. You want to go to the basement or the lowest possible floor of your home. You want to move to an interior room away from windows. And I think that's key, even if you don't have a basement. As long as you can get into an interior room, tornadoes in Maine don't tend to be the violent kind. So as long as you can be in a protected interior space, even if the rest of your house gets damaged, you will be safe in there. And you want to, of course, cover your head and neck. Bike helmet, not a bad idea to have in your tornado safe space. Of course, not something we talk about often here, but definitely a good day to at least keep this in the back of your mind. What about hail? Is that more likely than a tornado or about equal? There is certainly the potential for some hail today, Kelsey. I don't think it's a major threat of hail, and it also is overshadowed, I think, by the threat of the tornado, by the threat of flooding, by the threat of damaging winds. So there is the potential for some small, even some moderate-sized hail, but does not look like it should be enough to cause major damage. However, if we get some really, really big storms here later on today, not out of the question to also see some hail out there this afternoon. All right, so just remember, interior room or lowest level of your home. That's where you want to be should a tornado warning get issued. And I would think that there's at least the chance we see at least a warning or two as we head into this afternoon. So yeah, definitely just a good day to keep an eye on the sky. Karen asking about Milford, Maine. You are actually in a much lower risk of severe weather, Karen. By the time the storms get to you, looks like they'll be weakening. Still could be strong, but it does look like won't be quite as intense. All right, you guys, we also have a flood watch in place. A lot of different threats going on right now. We've got a flood watch in place until 9 p.m. That does include Greater Portland, up towards Lewiston, Augusta, over towards the mid-coast, all of York County, up towards the Oxford Hills. Again, really hoping we can avoid what we saw earlier this week, but could not completely rule out more road washouts, more scenes like what we saw earlier in the week. All right, we got to talk about the heat as well. Today, not a big deal. Tomorrow, though, it will be quite hot, feeling like close to 100 with the high humidity, temps near 90, and plenty of sunshine on our Friday afternoon. So tomorrow, going to be quite toasty out there, upper 80s or low 90s. But I really want to get into our storm tracker here. Let's time out our storms later on today. So even through lunchtime, here we are at 12 o'clock. Things still fairly calm out there. You notice there are some showers, there are some storms out there, but by this point, very likely not severe, not looking like we'll see any severe weather during the morning or early afternoon. Now, as we head towards the middle and latter part of the afternoon, that's when things get dicey. We're going to see this line of storms beginning to develop and moving into Maine. So here we are at 3:30 p.m. tomorrow, or this afternoon, I should say. That's likely when we're seeing some of the highest threat for damaging storms. You can see how the storms almost have a kidney bean sort of shape, like that little almost bend in the storms. If I could highlight that there in York County, if you're looking up in northern York County, that storm has like a sort of bend to it. That's a classic signature of a rotating storm. So there's a lot of spin in the atmosphere today. And even if we don't see tornadoes, storms will very likely have some rotation to them today. So it's between 2 and 7 p.m. with our highest risk of storms wrapping up this evening. Big improvements are on the way for tomorrow. So Kelsey's asking, will it be humid tomorrow or just hot? Oh, Kelsey, both hot and humid. Near 90, very high humidity, feeling more like 100 degrees for many of us on our Friday afternoon. All right, like I mentioned, big improvements on the way tomorrow. I'm going to pull in Emily Santom now to talk about that. Emily, you get the much nicer part of our forecast here. Big improvements on the way, even though we're still dealing with some heat tomorrow.
Yes, we are dealing with some heat tomorrow. We still have that heat advisory for effect. It'll restart tomorrow and it'll go on all day long. So that will also be very valid as well. So let's take a look at what Friday's going to look at. Overnight, it'll be in the mid to upper 60s, another warm night here in Maine. So we're waking up 7 a.m. Friday. We're already in the 70s. Some areas are in the upper 60s. And then throughout the day, it's going to stay remotely dry for the most part, maybe a couple clouds here and there. But it'll be hot and humid. We're looking around mid 80s around the 2 o'clock hour. Augusta is in the upper 80s as well as Freiburg. High temperatures and high, or I should say high dew points, excuse me. It'll be very humid out there. So expect some hot and humid conditions. Some UV indexes will be high as well. Take a look at that. So throughout the day, temperatures are going to be mostly in the 80s. Dipping into the 60s and 70s overnight, bringing us to Saturday. Saturday, we'll see some clouds, a little bit of rain as well. That begins to build in the afternoon. It'll be more so on the coast. You see right there, Rockland will get some just south of Augusta, and east of Lewiston, we'll see some rain. Still a little bit out, and that will be updated throughout today and tomorrow. So now we're looking around Saturday night at 8 o'clock. Temperatures are still in the upper 60s, low 70s, and mostly we're going to be dealing with some clouds. So let's take a look at our weekend forecast. Tomorrow is going to be hot and humid. Temperatures are going to be in the upper 80s, and then the area may even reach 90. And with the high counts of humidity, higher dew points will be very humid. It's going to feel like upper 90s, maybe triple digits in some spots. So Saturday will be on the much cooler side. We have a cold front moving through that will begin to lower dew points. Dew points will be very high on Saturday as well. So it's going to be muggy, sticky out there as well as wet. We're going to be in the lower 80s. So when we get into Sunday, though, I'm happy to reveal that we're going to have some great dew points, very pleasant and comfortable weather for the next couple of days, all the way until mid, maybe even late next week. It's going to be a little bit on the cooler side. We're going to be in the mid 70s. We're going to see lows of sun as well. So let's check out our dew points for the rest of the week. Saturday is going to be very humid, as well as Friday. Hot and humid we're dealing with for the next couple of days. Sunday through Tuesday right now, dew points are in the low 50s. Check out Tuesday too, mid 40s for a dew point. So that's great. That's very refreshing. We're going to have some cooler temperatures as well. So that's something to also keep an eye on. So let's check out the 7-day forecast for the coast. Today is our weather warn day, as Christian just covered. Hot and humid for Friday, some rain for the beginning of this weekend. And then Sunday through Wednesday, we're dealing with low counts of humidity. Even some lows at night are going to be in the mid 50s. Lately, we've been having some lows. You tell right now. Tonight, we're going to be in the upper 60s. Friday nights, low 70s for our lows. So that's a great improvement. Low counts of humidity. I know a lot of you out there keep commenting that you want some low humidity days. Well, you're going to get a handful of them as we head into next week. And then on the interior as well, it's going to be a little more warm for today and tomorrow, as well as the next couple of days. You have your rain, your thunderstorm chances for Saturday, and then we're mostly dealing with low counts of humidity all the way through next week. So I don't know about you, Christian, but I'm excited for the low humidity.
Yeah, me too, Emily. I am really ready to get rid of this humidity. It'd be one thing if we got the occasional break, but it hasn't stopped. I mean, for what, we set the record now in Portland, 29 days, I think.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get the 30 as well, maybe 31.
Probably a full month worth of days not dropping below 60, and all that has to do with the humidity as well. So yeah, very, very humid, and we are all looking forward to, I think, a nice break from it. All right, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to bring up our severe weather outlook one last time here before we wrap things up, because of course that's the big story for today. We've been tracking the severe weather all week. It's been looking more and more likely, and now here we are on Thursday, and it's heading our way for this afternoon. So I'm going to bring up our banner here about the storms, damaging wind, flooding, tornadoes. Those are our biggest threats later on this afternoon. Trying to go backwards here as fast as I can. The graphics not working as fast as my brain here. But yeah, we're going to see that threat for storms in central and southern Maine. Of course, here's what to do in a tornado warning. All right, here we go. Here's our storm threat for today. Best threat, central and southern Maine. Augusta over towards Lewiston, Auburn, over towards the mid-coast, Camden, Rockland, through places like Brunswick, Bath, down towards Portland, so through Freeport, Yarmouth, and Falmouth as well, Portland, all the way down into York County. So all the York County beaches, definitely not a beach day, Emily, I wouldn't think. Yeah, I saw a lot of people out on Old Orchard earlier. Hope they end up heading out after a minute. I think Johnny Maffey's standing behind me. Hey, Johnny. But yeah, we are going to see that storm threat for this afternoon, especially central and southern Maine, but can't be ruled out even in places further towards north, even up towards Bangor. All right. Someone asking about Elliott, Maine. There's Johnny. Is he with you now? There we go. We got Johnny in a couple of places. Elliott, Maine, down in York County, I think. Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, if that's right. Yes, you do have that risk for severe storms, and probably one of the higher ones in the state if you're in York County, right near the New Hampshire border. That's likely where we're going to see that higher risk of damaging winds, the flooding rain, and of course, no one wants to hear this word, the tornado threat as well here across the state. Not too often we see a 5% risk. Of course, 5% sounds very, very low, but think about a normal day where it's pretty much zero. This is a very big elevation from a normal run-of-the-mill weather day, or even just a normal thunderstorm day. So from Lewiston southward, Lewiston through places like Freeport, Yarmouth, Gloucester, Gray out towards the Lakes region, Sebago, out towards Bridgeton, Naples as well. All those areas have that higher risk of a tornado today. All of York County, especially Sanford and out towards the Lakes region, those areas tend to be hit the hardest by severe weather. So that's where I'm going to be really closely watching this afternoon. All right, Vassalboro. Someone's asking about Vassalboro. I always look it up just to be sure I know exactly where all these towns are, just to make sure here. But yeah, Vassalboro also in this risk, but likely not quite as high of a risk. Considering you're north of Augusta in Vassalboro, Sandra, it looks like your risk of a tornado is a good deal lower, but your risk of damaging winds and flooding still pretty elevated. But your risk of a tornado, Sandra, a lot lower than most of the rest of southern Maine. Crystal is asking about Sabattis up near Augusta, of course, not too far from Augusta. And also going to see a still elevated tornado risk, but lower than a lot of us here in southern Maine, Crystal. So not quite as bad for the tornado risk, but still dealing with that damaging wind and flood risk. So Emily, it just seems like we've got the whole kitchen sink out there these next few days, all sorts of things going on.
Yes, I agree as well. And going forward throughout today, when we get a lot of sun and in the afternoon, things may get a little messy here. Make sure all of you are following us on social media. We'll be tweeting, Facebooking. I think Ryan will be probably doing a live in Charlie as well later on if things get a little more dangerous. So just keep, like Christian said, keep your ringer on, have your sound, check the weather every 30 minutes just to be safe. This is like one of those situations where you don't want to miss an alert or misjudge or misread something and then end up in a little different situation. So just make sure you're keeping, like Christian said, eye to the sky. If things are looking a little crazy in the sky, maybe it's time to head on inside or end your outdoor activity.
That's exactly right, Emily. And a great idea to keep Channel 13 or Fox 23 on in the background, because if a warning is issued, any severe thunderstorm warning, any tornado warning, of course, we will go live immediately. So if you have us on, you'll always be getting those updates. And if you have the volume on, you'll hear us come in when we have to do a cut-in later on this afternoon. And of course, you can always have our app as well. Follow us on our social medias. We'll be keeping you posted all through the rest of the day. All right, I want to go through a couple more of these questions. Barbie asking about Sydney. That's right next to Vassalboro. And similar story, lower tornado threat there, Barbie, but the risk of damaging winds and flooding there is still in existence. So still going to see that threat even up in Sydney, although it may be a little lower than what we'll see here in far southern Maine. Also, Barbie, love the name, especially with the movie that just came out. I bet you've been getting that a lot lately. All right, Diane, what about Rumford? Diane, Rumford is actually might be saved a little bit. If it's raining there right now, Diane, if you're still watching, I would love to hear if it's raining there right now, because if it's raining in Rumford right now, good chance we've stabilized things there and the severe threat is lower. Up in the mountains, the severe threat is lower. However, still that risk of flooding rain, and still couldn't rule out some damaging wind gusts. All right, and Travis says, thanks for the update. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. Of course, we'll keep you posted all day. Got a live update, of course, coming for you at noon. And we are going to see, we're going to keep you updated, as I said, as we head through the afternoon. And Charlie and Ryan will be in for the afternoon hours. So thanks for joining, everybody, and thanks to Emily for hanging out with us this morning. Really happy to have the extra assistance on a busy day like today. So yeah, all right, we're gonna be signing off, you guys. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and please stay safe out there.
This has been live interactive Weather Authority coverage from CBS 13 and Fox 23. Make sure to stay connected with CBS 13 and Fox 23 on air, online, and through these social channels. Thank you for watching.